No, it's best to have a bit of cream. Although we're only on there now. So it shouldn't be too bad. Yeah, so you're weathered.
Well, I'm not so lazy, you see.
Take it easy, that's the best bet.
We're in...
I still think the sun's in the wrong position. Where's that? I tell you what, Beryl, I looked out my bathroom window, gorgeous.
When I went to South Africa with my son, we had cameras and he took, gases and dust. And then he said, oh, yeah, I am.
Spoiler, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, you get on that little bit of high ground.
You better match better for you up. There's a match better for you up there. Yeah. Because you get the light.
Then you can get also you can turn around this way and get a picture of that mountain.
That's right, yeah.
Can I go?
Show off in there.
Yeah, you've got to know what you...
button is, but I like to look where the button is, but you mustn't, you've got to know.
Yeah, you've got to know what you're doing with it.
Yeah. This one, all you do is press that.
Quite a silver, really nice. It's really blue sky and everything. Yeah, I did haggis. I got that this morning. But cheers, mate. Well, I'll speak to you sometime next week. Probably I'll give you a call. Find out how things are going. Take care, mate.
Take
Thanks.
you and take him, take him.
Yeah.
So I bet we're going to get finger marks.
Yeah, it might be. It's full of chuck.
This is the Royal the water Scott on the Lake Latrine. Lake Latrine.
In 1900, the famous Clyde shipbuilders Denny constructed the boat and brought it up the river Leven from Dumbarton and into Loch Lomond. She then travelled the length of Loch Lomond to Inversnaid, and from there was carried by road through Glen Achray to Loch Catchett, which was reassembled and launched at Stronach. All this was to meet the great demand of visitors wishing to sail on one of the most famous stretches of water in the world. Only travellers on the Lochside Road, which you see on our right, were met with a huge obstacle at the point just opposite, a place known for many years as the Ladder. This was the Granchach Rock, or in English, the Awesome Rock. Anyone wishing to gain access to this almost secret rock in those days had to negotiate the rock with the help of a rope made of twined heather. The route to Loch Catchett is completely landlocked, and that fact helps to ensure the purity of the water. This relatively small loch is only 10 miles long, but it's famous, as you like, notorious inhabitant Rob Roy McGregor, and he's great fame. His image was known all over the world through print and later photographs. Quite insignificant landscape features, like the peninsula of Achray on our right here.
You see,
don't think it's very high. So even in Tasmania they've got...
The Gaels described Whitby as the water of life. And some strictly illegal stuff, as the Irish call for cheese, as the Americans will call it moonshine, was activated still here at Loch time.
As you've just seen, that motor vessel, this is Loch Lomond. There's the hydroelectric scheme over there, plant. Feeding time at the zoo.
I heard that.
Got a pair of legs.
Come in. Come in.
Look at Falls near Killing.
You have to be quiet along here in Solo, and you can get the keys to go in.
I know.
Then you feel it more. I mean, but then last time. Feel like bolting over the water.
This is killing. Yeah, you can get back to the town that side.
Can you?
Yeah.
You can get back to the town.
Go back and walk and then go across that bridge.
Rubbish. It's floating in there. That looks terrible. There's some fish down there. Huh?
This is the famous salmon ladder.
To part there when we're eating. Thank you.
Don't sit on the wall. Don't you wish to take both pictures? Lovely, you two.
Keep still.
Not me. Oh, there's another 5p.
There's some money down there.
Yeah. Whatever comes first. This is calendar.
But we can't find Dr. Finlay.
Okay, the news.
They've changed dramatically, even from here up to Loch Achray and the Trossachs, where you really start to get into the Highlands proper. And the whole landscape that you see today is the result of the end of the Ice Age, when the ice flows started melting right up in the mountains of Scotland. Slowly but surely, as they slid south, they flattened out the land to what you see today. And all the lochs that you see in the north of Scotland were all the result of those ice flows, I can't say flows this morning, pushing all the soft soil, the soft gravel and sand in front of the ice. And so you get these big sort of fissures in the land that the ice flows gouged out.
You had a what? You had an auntie boat as well. Yeah, we're going to
Are you going for a drink first?
Well, we're now coming up to join George Street, and this is the central boulevard linking Charlotte Square with St Andrew's Square. So Charlotte Square is away to your right, and St Andrew's Square now on our left. Go. As good as go. On the telly, you've been there. This is it. This small area between now and the wall in front of us. That is the whole area that you see the tattoo. Now, if you Lasset and get entry by walking up here to her son James VI. You also yours, and it all ends up in the. Well, in fact, the Royal Mile is 1 mile contrast between what life was like with that changeover. And the living accommodation was reached by the outside staircase, you can see. And Thomas Gladstone would have lived on the first 2 floors with his family and rented the upper ones to get some more income. Now, you can see that there's leaded glass in the windows and there's wooden shutters underneath. Now, those wooden shutters would be open to let in the fresh air. The light, of course, went through the glass. Now, every night in Old Edinburgh at 10 o'clock there was a curfew. Not that you had to be indoors for safety from physical attack, but what you did have to be indoors was from safety of what came out of those shutters. Because at 10 o'clock the shutters would open the full length of the old town and a head would walk over the top of him. But if ever I'm in there and there's no car parked on him, I go and jump on him. Because I think he was a bit of a hypocrite. He wrote a book called The First Blast of the Trumpet Against the Monstrous River of Edinburgh. To your front right is an old church here called the Tron Kirk. And although it's not a church any longer, this is where people congregate on Hogmanay in Edinburgh. Everybody congregates around here to see the midnight bells in and then the party starts. But the Tron was actually the public way beam in the old days. And it was used on market days so that if you went and bought flour or oatmeal or whatever and you weren't too sure if you'd been cheated, you could take it to the Tron and they would weigh it and check it for you. It was also the place beautifully built into blend with the old town. It took 22 years to get planning permission. Born, brought up and died within the old town walls. They never in the whole of their life went out of the walls. If they did, as far as they were concerned, at the Royal Mile, but prior to that, what was to the lower part of the hill, and as I say, if you want to come back, I fully recommend a visit to Holborn. Now, of course, it is the Queen's official residence, and she was here 2 weeks ago. The Royal Ensign was flying from the flagpole. See the view over to your right. Another tower there. There's a better view of it as we come up in a moment. And that is a monument to Nelson. The Parthenon is this monument to Nelson. It's designed to look like an outstretched telescope, and it does. Yeah, that's where we were out there. And then if you come to the right, not the first spire you can see, but there's a smaller one just in the distance. That's George Heriot's school, Jingling Geordie. Oh, yeah. And then come to the right of that, and of course you have the spire of St Giles High Kirk right on the Royal Mile. And the top of the spire is designed to resemble the old crown of Scotland. That's where it takes its shape from. Keep coming to the right, and you've got the black spire of St John's Gaelic Church right just at the castle, where we saw that optical illusion and came up at the back of the church. To the right again you can start to see the seating on the esplanade there, the blue seating, and then of course the whole castle spread out. If you go into the castle, as well as seeing the Honours of Scotland and Mary's apartments, you will also see the oldest part of the castle, which dates back to the 12th century. It's the chapel of St Margaret, because Queensberry Margaret was made a saint. So she's not only a queen, but she's St Margaret as well. And her little chapel is there. Her husband built it in her memory. So if we just walk round the corner here. mast in front of it, this tower with the clock on it, it's the tower of the Lomond Hotel. That's sitting at the east end of Princes Street, and that's where we're going down from here. So you'll see that close up. The monument beyond that, which you'll also see in a few minutes' time, is the Scott monument, the one with the scaffolding on it. It's a monument to Walter Scott, the great writer in Scotland. Now if you come to the right of that, and in the distance you can see the green dome with the building top and all those historical records that we kept in Charlotte Square where we started our tour. If you come to the right of that, of course, is National Square. Come past this monstrosity of a shopping centre, and down in the valley you can see a square church spire with a clock on it. As we came down towards Robert Louis Stevenson's house, and I said there's a lovely church in the visuals, that's the church, that's down by Heriot Row where Robert lived. And if you look slightly to the right and beyond that, you can just make out Betty's College. You saw angled between those two rows of buildings. Can you see it down there? Right, just at the back of the tree line. You can see that sort of we have done such a circle, but it really is all quite compact. It seems as if we've gone miles, but in actual fact in area it's relatively small. That's what you haven't seen there. It's down here to the right, and you'll see that you go round, where you see all the trains. That is the port of Leith. The reason that the memory of Nelson.
I wonder what the sound of the gun would be.
Yeah, now. It's got to be, isn't it? Yeah.
Even if they do it at the same time. The sound will take a while.
Make them jump a bit when it drops.
Scream, oh, my bloody fingers again!
Must be rough now.
Must be a countdown now. Definitely us guys.
Sure you're not supposed to change your watches when you cross the border. It's got European time, I think. Anything slow?
Yeah.
You're on.
He watches.
Oh, it's gone.
Wait, sir.
This is Scarborough. Seen from the hotel. The village of Thorntonley Dow. This is Whitby. This is Whitby Parish Church.
Eileen had gone.
No, Eileen's over here.
Down there, sitting on the wall.
Not many people.
The harbour entrance. Late October, this is an amazing number of people here. We've even got Doctor Who's TARDIS.
That's it, he's off now. To the end of October, they wouldn't believe it, would they?
No, certainly wouldn't.
Doesn't get very long rest, so it'll start again.
All right.
What about you, Pam? Would you like a ride on a donkey?
No, thank you.
Only just what dogs do, don't they?
That's the site of where the hotel fell into the sea.
excursions by steamer and for fishing in the Loch. The road descends rapidly to Inversnaid, and the coaches being supplied with specially constructed brakes are, after their wild rush, drawn up exactly at the hotel door, to the great relief of the passengers who momentarily expect to be dashed into the Loch. Today, the Inversnaid Hotel is a comfortable and friendly establishment, part of a complex of 4 hotels run by a family company. It has seen a great many changes since it first saw light of day in the 1820s. On the other hand, the surrounding countryside and scenery have altered little. Loch Lomond itself is 24 miles long and 5 miles wide at the south end, and close to Inversnaid, it plunges to a depth of 620 feet. It contains 22 species of fish, including salmon and sea trout. The area immediately to the north of the hotel is a nature reserve. This site was purchased by the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds in March 1986. It amounts to 923 acres of land. It's a mixture of oak, ash, alder, rowan and birch, together with hazel, holly and hawthorn. There are several badger sets on the reserve, also both red and roe deer. Goats, some with fearsome-looking horns, are a common sight. The hotel has its own ferry. This is because the good road, on the far side of the Loch, gives much better access to destinations in the north and west. From the Loch can be seen Rob Roy's cave. This is reputed to have been the hiding place of the legendary Rob Roy MacGregor. Born in 1671, Rob Roy was, in his younger days, a notorious outlaw and cattle thief. Nevertheless, he later settled down with his family and lived to the comparatively ripe old age of 63. Throughout the centuries, Inversnaid and Loch Lomond have been visited by a long list of writers and authors, such as Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and Gerard Manley Hopkins, who was so inspired by his visit to Inversnaid that he wrote a poem entitled quite simply, Inversnaid. This darksome burn, horseback brown, his roll-rock high road roaring down, in coop and in comb the fleece of his foam flutes and low to the lake falls home. What would the world be once bereft of wet and wildness? Let them be left, oh let them be left, wildness and wet. Long live the weeds and the wilderness yet. The journey to Fort William begins with the spectacular valley of Glencoe, known as the Glen of Weeping. It was on the 13th of February 1692 that the massacre of Glencoe took place. The MacDonalds had delayed making their oath of submission to William and Mary. the Minister of State in Edinburgh decided to make an example of them and ordered the Campbells to kill them all. Of the 200 MacDonalds, 40 were slain and others died of exposure. 3 years later, it was ruled that the killing had been murder. But the Minister of State suffered only dismissal. Fort William lies at the foot of Ben Nevis, which at 4,406 feet is Britain's highest mountain. It overlooks the Commando Memorial, and this foot of the mountain was the Commandos' training ground during the Second World War. It was here, too, that in 1745, a mere dozen MacDonald Highlanders routed 2 companies of British government troops who were on their way to reinforce the garrison at Fort William. It's said that the MacDonalds were armed with little more than bagpipes and blood-curdling screams. At Loch, the road crosses the Caledonian Canal. Nearby, just next to Ben Nevis, is the mountain of Achray, and you can go to the top of it on Scotland's only cable car. There are 80 gondolas, and the trip takes just 12 minutes. There is a restaurant, and on the way you can see the Ben Nevis Nature Conservancy site. In winter, Achray offers excellent skiing, but year-round it offers spectacular views of the Highlands and Islands, all the way to the west coast and to the Isle of Skye. Below is Loch Lene, one of the sea lochs that reaches deep into Scotland. Fort William sits on its edge and has a mild climate, with snow-capped mountains in winter. The town's relatively short history began in 1655, when General Monk built an earthwork fort here. Dr. Johnson wrote that the fort was conceived with the purpose of subduing savage clans and raving barbarians. Its significance as a port was enhanced with the construction of the Caledonian Canal, which was begun in 1803 by Thomas Telford. The canal is 60 miles long and has 29 locks. It linked Loch Lene in the south with Loch Ness in the north, and meant that shipping could bypass the treacherous northern coast. It was completed in 1847, and for many years Fort William saw a great deal of shipping pass by. Nowadays, the canal is less active. The railway also came to Fort William in the 19th century, and it was for this reason that the original fort was pulled down. The railway brought tourism, growth and prosperity to this military outpost. Tourists arrive by coach, bicycle and on foot. Fort William is at the north end of the West Highland Way, which is a 96-mile footpath running from Glasgow via Inversnaid. Almost 100 years. She was built in 1899 at Dumbarton, dismantled and loaded onto barges, then taken by boat to Inversnaid and by horse-drawn cart to Stronachlacha. There she was reassembled and launched on Loch Katrine in June 1900. The Sir Walter Scott is the fourth steamer to see service on Loch Katrine, and it cruises between Stronachlacha and the Trossachs Pier every day during the summer months. 9 miles long and has been the principal reservoir for Glasgow since 1859. The construction of the dams and a 26-mile-long aqueduct which takes the water to Glasgow was an amazing feat of engineering. And Loch Katrine have seen many important visitors, including Wordsworth and Sir Walter Scott. It was Loch Katrine that was the inspiration for Sir Walter Scott's Lady of the Lake, published in May 1810, and a spectacular success. The ship is powered by coal, which means there is no diesel contamination of the loch. Apart from this steamship, only rowing boats are allowed on the loch. This is to ensure the purity of the water. The Sir Walter Scott still has her original engine, that was on her second funnel and third set of boilers. Every day the Sir Walter Scott arrives at the Trossachs Pier, as it has been doing since the reign of Queen Victoria. But every year she's taken out of the water at Stronachlacha and given an inspection for seaworthiness. Sir Walter Scott, the writer, believed that the name Katrine derived from cateran. Caterans were freebooters or robbers who frequented the area. However, there's a much more romantic, though sad, story. There once was a beautiful maiden named Katrine, whose task it was to guard a well which was on the side of Benvenue. At this time, the Loch was a fertile valley inhabited by shepherds who obtained their water from this well. Also dwelling in the area were Urisks, looking like a cross between a man and a goat. One day, an Urisk who lived in the Goblin's Cave came to the well disguised as a handsome young Highlander and gave the girl a drink from his bowl. As a result, she fell asleep, and the evil Urisk cut all the sluices of the well so that the waters flooded the valley below. The shepherds and their families were drowned. When Katrine awoke and saw the disaster caused by her lack of vigilance, she flung herself into the waters which still bear her name. Whatever the origin of the name, Loch Katrine is without doubt a lovely stretch of water, surrounded by dramatic scenery and the site of much historic interest. The Sir Walter Scott steams on, now powered by smokeless fuel, and carries up to 500 passengers a day into the Trossachs. The village of Aberfoyle lies at the gateway to the Trossachs. To get from one to the other, you have to go over the Duke's Pass, which can be impassable in winter. In the 18th century, Aberfoyle was the territory of the legendary Rob Roy MacGregor. But as well as breeding outlaws, they also bred sheep. The Scottish Woolen Centre in Aberfoyle is divided into 3 areas: theatre, shop and self-service restaurant. The shop sells a variety of Scottish-made goods, including, of course, woolens. There's also a spinning and weaving station where demonstrations are carried out regularly. The Trossachs Theatre was especially designed for the sheep shows which take place several times each day throughout the season. There's a miniature farm outside the theatre so that the animals can be properly cared for between shows and given a rest. The show allows us to see rare breeds such as the Hebridean, which has 4 horns. They have been known to have up to 8 horns, but this tends to be a hindrance rather than a help to the sheep. The Shetland, on the other hand, is now widespread. These sheep provide very high-quality wool, second only to the merino. The show gives a fascinating glimpse into the history of this useful animal. The first evidence of domesticated sheep goes back 10,000 years. But for real luxury, you can't beat cashmere. Cashmere comes from goats, though, not sheep. This incredibly fine wool commands 50 times the price of the best sheep's wool. Until recently, all cashmere was imported, mainly from China. But now the cashmere goat is bred here, just down the road, in fact, at Kinloch. Each breed of sheep has its own characteristics. Some with long ears, some with long faces, and others with horns, but all provide wool. The process of wool production starts with removing the oily lanolin by washing with detergent. This is followed by teasing, which makes the fibres go in the same direction. Teasing also helps move bits of debris. The fibres are then spun to make a yarn, which is fine but strong. After this, the yarn is made up into hanks, which may then be dyed. After being dyed, the wool is ready to be made into knitted garments, or as here, woven into cloth on a loom. The design being created here is a traditional one, which has probably been in existence since weaving began. Loch Fyne is a sea loch that runs all the way from the Firth of Clyde, and Inverera, with its imposing 18th century castle and bell tower, lies on the north shore. It's entered via a large gateway by the Great Inn. Inverera is an 18th century example of town planning. The town originally clustered around its first castle, but when, in 1743, the 3rd Duke of Argyll decided to build a new castle, he planned at the same time to move the whole village. Today, Inverera's 200-year-old pier is also home to the Arctic penguin. On board, its collection of exhibits and displays are dedicated to the maritime heritage of the Clyde. It was constructed as a lightship to stand off the Irish coast. One of the most fascinating buildings in the town is Inverara Jail, a 19th century prison which was closed in 1889, but now open to haunt the general public. In the restored courtroom, actual trials that took place here are reenacted by waxwork models and a few live human beings.
The charge against the family David Wallace, member of the department, is that they ensure the farm buildings, agricultural produce and livestock at Ballygaddy for £3,224. David Wallace, you have been found guilty of bribery, but I must confess that the torture of your cattle is uppermost in my mind. I sentence you to 20 years transportation.
This small building was once the county prison of Argyll. Sometimes more than 20 men, women and children were locked up together in its 8 small cells. It was replaced in 1849 by the new prison, which had furniture. The bell tower is another feature of the Inverara skyline. It is actually a separate building from the Episcopalian church by which it stands. The tower contains some of Scotland's finest bells, several named after saints and inscribed with their names. Across the bay from Inverara Pier, 2 elegant bridges cross the rivers Era and Shira. Beyond lies the prestigious castle of the Dukes of Argyll. The Argyll family is the senior branch of the Campbell clan, which moved from Loch to Inverara in the first half of the 15th century. The building is really a house, a castle, and marked the start of more settled times in Scotland. Loch Lomond is 24 miles long and the largest stretch of inland water in Britain. In the north, the loch quickly narrows below ranges of high mountains, but in the south, the waters are broad and broken by many islands. Towards the southern end, on the western shore, lies the village of Lochs. This is the region of the bonny banks of Loch Lomond, mentioned in the well-known ballad. Lochs is a pretty little village, well known for its tiny rose-covered cottages, each emblazoned with brass nameplates inscribed with the name of the house and the name of the owner. The television soap opera Take the High Road comes to Lochs regularly to shoot the outdoor scenes. You are welcome to watch for a while, but no talking. The church, which was built in 1875, contains a 14th century effigy of St. Kessock, a local evangelist of the 6th century. The interior is quite unusual and is well worth a visit. Historically, Stirling Castle occupied a position of supreme strategic importance. As in Edinburgh, the castle is set on a volcanic mound carved and sculpted by the Ice Age. Set at the highest navigable point of the River Forth, the castle guarded the principal north-south and east-west routes across Scotland. Visible from the castle, the Wallace Monument stands on the hill where William Wallace guarded the crossing of the Forth and won the Battle of Stirling Bridge in 1297. On the castle esplanade stands a statue of Robert the Bruce in the act of sheathing his sword after winning the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. The Royal Borough of Stirling has almost no connection with Rob Roy MacGregor, but it has a statue of him. And Rob Roy did take part in the first Jacobite rebellion, which resulted in the building of the garrison at Inversnaid. For much of the Middle Ages, the effective capital of the kingdom was wherever the king happened to be in residence, and as a result, the town of Stirling shows many of the characteristics of a medieval capital. The first king to be firmly identified with the castle was Alexander I, who died in 1124. It next comes on record exactly 50 years later, when it was handed over to Henry II of England. Its history is one of constant struggle between the Scots and the English, who each took and retook the castle several times. After Bannockburn, Robert the Bruce pulled down a lot of the fortifications, but the English soon repaired them during their next occupancy. Mary, Queen of Scots, was crowned, and her son James VI of Scotland, first of England, was baptized in the chapel here. When in 1603 James took over the English crown and moved south, Stirling Castle ceased to be a royal residence. In 1745, Bonnie Prince Charlie marching south forced Stirling to surrender, but not the castle, which withstood the siege. Today it houses the Museum of the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, seen here at the Battle of Balaclava, where they earned the nickname the Thin Red Line. The castle was a regimental depot right up to 1964, since when a great deal of restoration work has been done. The name Stirling derives from the word Sturivling, or place of strife, which adequately sums up the castle's troubled history. Glasgow Green is a park to the east of the city centre, and its most impressive feature is the People's Palace, which was opened in January 1898. The building was 30 years in the making, at a time when Glasgow Corporation was grappling with slum housing, inadequate sanitation, poverty and disease. Were built to provide an area for popular musical entertainment, as well as for housing shrubs and flowers. The red brick portion of the building houses a museum, which tells the story of Glasgow from 1175 to the present day, with the emphasis on people as well as on places. It provides an insight into the political and cultural history of the city. These days, in the streets of Glasgow, almost anything can happen. In the middle of the city is the St Enoch Centre, a vast indoor shopping complex. The Museum of Transport is devoted to the history of transport on land and sea, with bicycles and motorcycles, horse-drawn vehicles, buses, trams, railway locomotives, commercial vehicles, fire engines and cars. They're all in gleamingly restored condition and make for a very impressive sight. From the St Enoch Centre, hiding behind this deceptively modest facade, is Prince's Square, a shopping complex with an entirely different style of decoration. The stars are out over the Inversnaid Hotel, and what better way to relax after a day's sightseeing than at Achray, an evening of music, dance and fun with a particularly Scottish flavour.
exercise, we shall show you, and we shall bring our two young ladies back onto the floor. Well, you've done it before, I can tell. Now, you gentlemen have the advantage of having seen it done. Oh, we're getting into it now.
Of course, the evening wouldn't be complete without some Scottish dancing. And here, some guests and members of the band get to grips with Strip the Winner. The famous sword dance is a fitting way to end the evening.